RAD PACK. Come out and play. What the hell kind of weird shit are you doing in here? Dan it, doo-doo loves movies. Dan it, doo-doo loves movies. What's up, dudes and dudettes? My name's Cody, and I'm just a dude who loves movies. And tonight I'm answering a challenge. The RAD Packs challenge. This time it's the RAD 9 movies that scared us. So with these 9 movies, I'm not going to put any of them in any particular kind of order, but I'll put the one that scared me the most at number 1. And guys, not all of these are horror movies, and hey, not all of them are even movies. So I hope that's all right. I haven't watched many lists because I wanted to go in this fresh and just see if some of my lists kind of compare to yours. So let's get started. I have 2 honorable mentions to start off with, and the reason why they're honorable mentions is because I've seen them once when I was a little kid, and I've never seen them again, so I don't quite remember exactly a lot about them. So my first honorable mention is going to be a cartoon movie from 1978 called Watership Down. This movie is about like a group of rabbits that are migrating from one field to the next field, and they have to kind of survive the elements of the weather and the wild and humans. And I think there's some kind of like poison going around in the fields or whatnot. But I remember like they have to try to survive. Like these hawks are trying to kill them. And then there's also like this rabbit, this other like big rabbit with like a weird eye or like across, like you can tell that he's like a battle rabbit. You can tell he's been in some battles, and he is just murdering rabbits left and right. And I know they have to try to get away from a fox or whatnot, but it was very, very traumatizing to a little kid watching this, and I never watched it again. And then for my second honorable mention, the same people who did that movie doubled down and made another cartoon movie in 1981 called Plague Dogs. And I'm a huge dog lover, so I went into this movie being like, oh, cool, I'm going to watch this dog movie. But no, so these dogs escape a testing plant, like a place that does animal testing, and man, like they're throwing around like these dead dogs and stuff and dead animals. Anyways, they escape. I think a couple of them try to escape, but only 2 of them make it, and they're out in the wild trying to survive the elements as well. But then there's like a fox that helps them, and this fox tries to help them navigate and stuff. And there's this one scene that I remember the most is that there's actually like this nice hunter who sees one of the dogs and like tries to get the dog to come over. The dog gets excited and runs up to the guy, but the hunter has his gun up at like a weird angle, and the dog jumps up on him, but his foot hits the trigger, blows the dude's face off. Yes. In this cartoon, this dog blows this guy's face off with a shotgun. That movie traumatized me. And these were cartoons. But you know what? Now that I think about it, they're probably really important. I should probably go back and watch them. But they freaked me out so much to where I never watched them again. Alright, so now that we got the honorable mentions out of the way, let's get into the RAD 9 movies that scared the dude. With number 9 being 1997's anthology horror movie Campfire Tales. Campfire Tales has 3 segments with a wraparound story, and the segment and story I want to focus on is going to be segment number 2, called People Can Lick To. In this segment, we have this little girl who is about to celebrate her 11th birthday, and she is very frequent in online chat rooms, and she's talking to this boy. She thinks it's a boy, but it's really an online predator. And this online predator is like this creepy older guy who's actually videotaping her and stalking her. He knows where she lives. And one night, I think the night before her 11th birthday, her parents are out at dinner, and then her sister is out on a date. So he is like inside the house, and he's inside the house, and she's just, you don't know where he's gonna pop up. But I can't really explain what scared me about it the most because I don't want to give away the spoiler. But it's a really good segment, and it freaked me out. And because of that, I was never one of those kids who were in chat rooms talking to strangers. I was always talking to people I knew. And in the late 90s, this was something that was like very new and very scary. I mean, it's still scary nowadays, but man, that segment, whew, it was scary. In this movie, each segment is like an urban legend. This was urban legends before urban legends came out. And they even did the People Can Lick 2 called Humans Can Lick 2, because I know it's an urban legend and it's in Urban Legends 3 Bloody Mary, but they absolutely destroyed it. But yeah, I highly recommend you guys checking this movie out if you haven't seen it. If not, just look up People Can Lick 2. Number 8 is going to be 2011's Paranormal Activity 3. Now, all the Paranormal Activity movies do freak me out. It's one of those, it's that franchise where you watch it in a big theater with a sold out crowd and nobody's talking. It's completely silent and it's just a slow burn until the very end, or little hits there, here and there. And this movie has a scene in it towards the end. For some reason, I don't mind spoiling this one, but there's they go to their grandma's house to get away from their house, and they're at their grandma's house. They wake up in the middle of the night and they can't find anyone. So the guy's walking around the house, and he goes outside and he goes to a door and he opens the door and it's dark, and when he opens the door and turns on the light, and it's like all these old people like just staring at him, and it it scares me. So like I said, like these movies, I feel like if you watch them at home they might be not too scary, but they are some of my favorite theater experiences. These movies, you watch them and then you're like, oh wow, you don't really know how much it affects you until you're like laying in bed at night and you're like, I think I'm gonna look at the door or face the door while I sleep this week. So Paranormal Activity 3, The Old Ladies, scares the crap out of me. Now don't laugh at this one. Number 7 is 1971's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The reason why this movie scares me so much is the Oompa Loompas. They're walking around and they're taking these kids to the back room and you never see them again. Like, where are they taking these kids? These kids are like going through this like horrible trauma. Of course, they're being bad kids and, are being punished, but at what cost? Like, what's going on? And these little guys are like walking around with no smile on their face, like deadpan, going, Oompa Loompa Doopity Doo. I've got another puzzle for you. And I don't give a damn about the puzzle. I want to get out of this chocolate factory. I want nothing to do with this chocolate factory. Charlie kind of freaks me out as well. It's same with the grandpa. Everyone in this story, there's just nothing's right here. I mean, Gene Wilder did a great job, but even Willy Wonka was off his nut. So yeah, the Oompa Loompas from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory made this movie very scary for me as a kid. Even like even the Wizard of Oz kind of scared me as well. I didn't like the Munchkins. I didn't like what were they called? Those what were those? The Lollipop Gills. Those people scared me. The Lollipop Gills scared me, and I'm surprised because I actually played a Lollipop Gill back in a stage performance in 1996, Larkspur Elementary. Big shout out. We represent the Lollipop Gills, the Lollipop Gills, the Lollipop Gills. Oh, no thank you. So number 6 is going to be Nickelodeon's Are You Afraid of the Dark? This show ran from 1990 to 1996 and it was revived in like 99 to like 2000 and something. But the initial run, the first run, the 90 to 96 is what I really watched a lot. And the show freaked me out, but not only the show, but what freaked me out the most was the opening credits, the theme, and there's like a very specific part in that beginning, and it's like this schoolyard, and it's like an empty schoolyard at night, and you just see the swing going back and forth. Well, anyways, it wouldn't scare me while watching it, but later at night when I'm laying in bed, I'd be thinking about that, and I'd be like, oh. And when you think about it, your imagination goes wild, and all of a sudden you're in that scenario. You're in that empty uh, playground at night, and you're all alone, and you're just like, oh my god, what's going on here? That, and like the playground kind of looked like the Child's Play 2 playground, so it's like, oh my gosh. And at night you start thinking about that, and all of a sudden everything's scary because you've already spooked yourself, and so now you're looking at the corner of the room, and you're like, oh my god, who is that in the corner? Is there somebody there? Then you look like a little hole in the wall, and you think a little finger's coming out, or you think a spider's coming after you. I don't know. And it's all because of the beginning of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Shout out to my SNIT kids. Number 5 is another cartoon, and it's from 1975 called Ricky Tikki Tavi. Ricky Tikki Tavi is like a 30-minute cartoon movie. I remember my grandma bought it for me on VHS. I watch it all the time. I love this movie. But this movie stars a mongoose called Ricky Ticky Tavi, who is a BA, by the way. Ricky Ticky Tavi has to protect his human family from these two king cobras. And these two king cobras are nasty. And there's a scene where these cobras are like, we're going to murder them in their sleep while they're sleeping, and this and that, yada, yada. And me as a little kid, I'm sitting there like, oh my God, these snakes are going to kill this family in their sleep. But Ricky Tiki Tavi, you know he's going to come in clutch. And there's a scene towards the end where he battles the cobra, and you're just like, my dude. I love Ricky Tiki Tavi, but whenever I bring it up to people, they've never seen it or they've never even heard of it. And I know it was a short story, so I'm interested to hear if you guys have ever seen it or heard of it. But yeah, Ricky Tiki Tavi from 1975. Check it out if you haven't. Number 4 is going to be 1991's Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Now, this movie freaked me out when I was a kid, and it's because of the killer Easter Bunny. That Easter Bunny was nightmare fueled. And I watched this movie all the time when I was a kid, and for some reason, I can't remember why he was in there. So I was thinking, and then I was unlocking memories. And I think, if my memory serves me correctly, it's because he was a memory of Ted from when he was a child. And when he was a child, this Easter Bunny stole his brother's Easter basket. So Bill and Ted are in hell, and this is just a figment of his imagination or his memory that's coming to life, and this Easter Bunny is trying to kill him. Man, that Easter Bunny was freaky. Freaky. How about a bumper sandwich, Booger Lips? We're staying in 1991 with my number 3, Ernest Scared Stupid. And this is a silly movie. I know it is, and I love it for that. But what I also love about it is that it doesn't hold back on the scares. Like, this is scary for a kid to watch. Ernest has to stop these trolls from taking these kids' souls. What they do is they when they touch these kids, they turn into like these little wooden figurines, and the only way to stop these trolls is miak, which is milk. uh, so like, but these trolls are done right, and they're very scary. They're very ugly, and they have mucus all over their face, and they're slimy and grimy. And there is this scene that's very, very scary. It's probably scary now. I haven't watched it in a while, but there's a scene where this little girl is laying in her bed, and she checks underneath her bed to see if there's anything under there, and there's nothing. And when she comes up, she's laying next to like the king troll or the main troll, and it is, it's freaky, man. It's freaky. But I love that they did stuff like that back in the day. There was real danger in this movie, and it's an Ernest movie. Who would have thought? Number 2 on my list is going to be 2008's The Strangers. The Strangers is one of the last movies to really scare me and stick with me. It's about a couple who are going through a rough patch in their relationship, and they go to this cabin. And at this cabin, they're visited by 3 strangers in masks, and they stalk them throughout the night. And their motivation or lack of motivation is bone chilling. I feel like this is something that I can turn on the TV tomorrow and see on the news, and that's what's terrifying. I remember seeing this in theaters and leaving the theater, kind of looking over my shoulder, and everybody else was looking over their shoulder too in the parking lot. I remember getting home, and when I parked my car, looked over at the street light, and I was like, man, hopefully there's nobody in the shadows that can see me. So it really stuck with me. But it's one of those things where it's like your neighbor could put on a knapsack, knock on your door at 3 a.m., stalk you and your family till dawn, and murder you before you wake up. That is terrifying. And of course, that famous scene that even made the poster with her standing in the kitchen and him standing behind her. That is very scary. Another very scary part is when she gets a bowl of Bluebell ice cream and leaves it out on the counter and doesn't put it back in the freezer. That stuff's very expensive. And before we get to number 1, I want to throw in a bonus, and I'll make it quick. That bonus is going to be 2022's Fall. Fall is a situational horror movie about 2 climbers that get stuck on this jaggedy, raggedy, very large tower. And going into it, it kind of reminds me of the movie Frozen, where they're stuck on the skis lift. But in this movie, I didn't really realize how scary it was. So I'm not afraid of heights. But I went and saw this movie in theaters, and I remember having anxiety and I was sweating through the whole movie. And when I left, I went to go wash my hands and I was like, "Oh, what burns?" I bit a chunk off of my finger. I must have been so into this movie and it scared me to where I bit my finger or something. Something happened to my finger in this movie. So I do recommend that movie if you haven't seen it. I know people kind of wrote it off when they saw the trailer, but it is pretty good. Now I haven't seen it at home. I own it, and I'm afraid that it's not going to be as impactful as if you saw it on a large screen. So I'm glad I saw it in theaters, and I highly recommend it. And it was a movie that kind of terrified me. All right, guys, my number one is going to be 1990s Arachnophobia. I have talked about this movie numerous times, and I love it. It terrifies me now as much as it did back then. I am absolutely terrified of spiders, and it's because of this movie. I saw this movie at a really young age, and I remember after watching the movie the first time, I was sleeping in my bed, and I don't know if it was a dream or not, but I woke up and there was a big tarantula on my chest. I freaked out, and I remember my mom came running in, or I went running and got my mom, and we went back to go look, and we couldn't find the spider. And to this day, again, I'm like, was that real or was it a dream? But man, it felt really real to me, and I was so terrified of spiders. I was so terrified even when I put my shirt on, I had to do it really fast because I didn't want spiders to pop up anywhere. So because of arachnophobia, I always check my shoes. I check the toilet when I sit down. I have to check the shower. I have to check my popcorn, even my popcorn. And the scene that really stuck out to me the most is when the cop is like eating the cereal, and like there's a dead one. I always, and I mean always, check my cereal for spiders. That's how much this movie has affected me. I'm checking my Rice Krispie treats for freaking spiders. That movie haunts me to this day, and it always has. I love it, and I highly recommend it to anybody who hasn't seen it. It's a fun time. It's really fun, but it scares me, and it gave me arachnophobia. There you have it. That's the Rad 9 movies that scared the dude. And I'm very curious to see if any of my movies made your list. If you make a list, make sure you tag the Rad Pack. And that's Justin, Mel, and Garrett. And that's the Rad 9 movies that scared us. Community challenge by the Rad Pack. Now, I want to throw a curveball in this challenge, and I want to challenge two fellow YouTubers and friends of mine. The first YouTuber I want to challenge is going to be my dude, Derek from Pure Hangout. The second YouTuber I want to challenge is my good friend, Tracy from Nerd Squish. I really hope they accept the challenge because I think that they're going to have some interesting and fun lists. There are also two channels that I think my subscribers would really dig. So I'm going to put their links down in the description, so definitely check them out. Make sure you're going on over to the Rad Pack Podcast YouTube channel and watching Garrett, Mel, and Justin's videos. Tell them the dude sent you. The links will be down in the description. Absolutely don't forget to roundhouse kick that like button. Comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram at Dude Who Loves Movies, one word. I'm Cody from Dude Who Loves Movies, aka Dennis Radman, aka the Macho Dude Rad Savage. Stay rad, stay weird, stay killer, stay yourself. Cheers to who's respecting. I declare this meeting of the Rad Society closed.